I never thought I'd be writing this, but I guess I need to get it off my chest, and maybe some of you can help me make sense of what happened. I'm still processing everything, and honestly, I go between feeling vindicated and feeling like absolute garbage depending on the hour. So here goes nothing. I'm 26 now, but this all started about 8 months ago when I was still 25. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. I have a brother, Marcus, who's 23, and a sister, Lily, who just turned 20. Growing up, I always felt like I was on the outside of my own family, but I convinced myself I was being dramatic or overly sensitive. My mom always seemed to have more patience for Marcus and Lily, more Chinese letter in their lives, more everything. But she was never outright cruel or anything, so I just figured that's how it was and tried not to let it bother me too much. My dad was always working. He's a surgeon, super successful, makes really good money. He was the provider, the one who made sure we had everything we needed and most of what we wanted, but he wasn't around much. Long hours at the hospital, on-call shifts, medical conferences. I don't blame him for it. He was doing what he needed to do to take care of us. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she managed everything at home, all the schedules, all the activities, all the day-to-day stuff. Here's where it gets relevant. When I was 22, fresh out of college with a business degree, I got really lucky. I had been doing some freelance consulting work during my last year of school, helping small businesses with their marketing strategies and online presence. One of my clients was so impressed that they introduced me to someone who introduced me to someone else, and long story short, I got brought on as a partner in a startup. It was risky as hell, but I believed in the product and the team. That startup exploded, like way beyond any of our expectations. Within 2 years, we were acquired by a major tech company. My share of the acquisition was substantial. I'm not going to throw around exact numbers because I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but let's just say it was life-changing money. Enough that I'd never have to work again if I was smart about it, though I did keep working because I actually enjoyed what I did. When the acquisition happened, I was 24. I didn't broadcast it. I didn't show up in a Ferrari or buy a mansion. I bought a nice but modest condo. I upgraded my car to something reliable and comfortable but not flashy, and I invested most of it. My parents knew about the acquisition in general terms, but I don't think they really grasped the scope of it. I was deliberately vague about the numbers because I'd heard too many horror stories about family dynamics changing when money entered the picture. But here's the thing, I'm not a selfish person. I wanted to share my good fortune with my family, so I started doing things quietly. My sister Lily was in college, and I knew my parents were paying her tuition. I reached out to the university and anonymously paid off her entire remaining tuition, all 3 years she had left. I set it up through a lawyer so it looked like a scholarship from a foundation. That was about 80 grand right there. My brother Marcus had graduated but was struggling. He wanted to start a business, some kind of craft brewery thing, but he didn't have the capital and banks weren't giving him loans. I approached him privately and told him I'd made some good money from my work and wanted to invest in his dream. I gave him $150,000. I structured it as a loan on paper for tax purposes, but I told him straight up that I didn't expect him to pay it back. He was my brother, and I wanted him to succeed. For my parents, I started contributing to household expenses. My mom mentioned once that the roof needed replacing, but it was expensive and they were trying to decide whether to do it or wait another year. I told them I wanted to help out, and I paid for the entire roof replacement, $25,000. I also bought my mom a new car when hers died. Nothing crazy, a nice Honda, about $30,000. I paid for a vacation for them to Hawaii, about $15,000 for the 2 of them to go first class, nice resort, the works. My dad needed some new equipment for his home office, medical books, things like that. I took care of it, a few thousand here and there. I also started just sending my mom money monthly. I'd Venmo her $2,000 or $3,000 every month and tell her to use it for whatever the household needed, groceries, utilities, whatever. She never objected. She'd usually just send back a quick, "Thanks, sweetie," and that was it. I need you to understand I wasn't doing this for recognition. I genuinely wanted to help. These were my parents, my siblings. I loved them and I was in a position to make their lives easier, so why wouldn't I? But looking back now, I can see that I was probably also trying to buy the affection I'd never quite felt like I had, especially from my mom. That's something my therapist has helped me work through. So this went on for about a year and a half. I was pumping probably $6,000 to $8,000 a month into my family in various ways, plus the big one-time payments. All in, I'd estimate I gave my family somewhere in the ballpark of $250,000 over that 18-month period. Now we get to the incident. Last year in the late spring, my mom asked me to come to a family dinner. She said she wanted everyone together. I showed up and the vibe was immediately weird. My mom was cold, barely said hello. My dad wasn't there yet, still at the hospital. Marcus and Lily were already there and they both seemed uncomfortable. I asked what was going on, and my mom just said we'd wait for everyone to arrive. When my dad finally got there, looking exhausted like he always did, my mom served dinner and we all sat down. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Finally, my mom put down her fork and looked straight at me. She said, "We need to talk about your lifestyle." I was confused. My lifestyle? I lived quietly. I worked from home mostly. I didn't party. I didn't get into trouble. I had no idea what she meant. She continued, "You're 25 years old and you have no direction. You're not building a career. You're not in a serious relationship. You're just floating through life doing your little computer thing. It's embarrassing." I was stunned. I tried to explain that I had a career, that I was doing consulting work and actually doing quite well for myself. She waved me off. "Consulting," she said with actual air quotes and disdain in her voice. "That's not a real job. You know what a real job is, what your father does. He's a surgeon, he helps people, he has a career. Marcus is building a business. Lily is studying to be a teacher. What are you doing? Playing on your computer." I felt like I'd been slapped. I looked at my dad, waiting for him to say something to defend me, but he just looked tired and stayed quiet. Marcus was looking at his plate. Lily looked uncomfortable but didn't say anything either. I tried to keep my cool. I said, "Mom, I'm doing fine. I'm financially stable. I'm happy with my work. I don't understand why this is an issue." She laughed, actually laughed. "Financially stable. You live in that tiny condo. You drive a Toyota. If you were doing so well, you'd have more to show for it." I didn't know what to say. I'd been giving them so much money, but I couldn't throw that in her face. It felt wrong, and part of me was wondering if this was some kind of test or something. Then she really went for it. "I think you need to grow up. You're too comfortable, and that's our fault. We've enabled you to just coast through life without any real ambition or drive. So we've decided you need to be more independent. You need to figure things out on your own." I was so confused. I was independent. I had been living on my own since college. I paid my own bills. I didn't rely on them for anything. "Mom, I am independent," I said. She shook her head. "No, you're not. You still come here for Sunday dinners. You still act like you're part of this household. You need to separate and figure out who you are as an adult." Then came the kicker. "I don't think you should come around for a while. You need to focus on building your own life instead of hanging around here like a teenager." I looked around the table. My dad was rubbing his temples. Marcus was still staring at his plate. Lily had tears in her eyes but stayed silent. "Are you serious right now?" I asked. My voice was shaking. "Completely serious," my mom said. She was calm, matter of fact, like she was telling me to take out the trash. "I think you need to take some time, at least 6 months, and not contact us. Use that time to really think about your life and what you're doing with it. Build a real career. Find a girlfriend, something. Because right now, you're just an embarrassment." That word, embarrassment, from my own mother, I felt something break inside me. I stood up from the table. I was shaking, trying not to cry. "Fine," I said, "if that's what you want." I looked at my dad one more time, silently begging him to say something, anything. He opened his mouth, then closed it, then just said, "Maybe it's for the best, Sport. A little space might be good." Sport, he called me Sport, and basically cautioned on me being kicked out of my own family. I left. I didn't even take the food I'd brought, some expensive wine I'd picked up because I thought we were having a nice family dinner. I sat in my car outside their house for about 20 minutes, just trying to process what had happened. Then I drove home, opened a bottle of whiskey, and proceeded to have a really dark night. The next morning, hungover and feeling like my world had imploded, I started thinking more clearly, and the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Not just hurt, but genuinely angry. I'd given these people $250,000. I'd paid for their roof, their car, their vacation, my sister's education, my brother's business. I'd been sending my mom thousands of dollars a month, and I was an embarrassment. I had no direction. So I made a decision. If they wanted me out of the family, then I was out, completely. I called my brother first. I told him that the loan I'd given him was now due in full within 30 days, with the interest rate that we'd stipulated in the paperwork, which was basically a standard commercial rate. He started to panic, asking what was going on, saying he didn't have that kind of money. I told him he should have thought about that before sitting silently while Mom kicked me out. I told him to figure it out and hung up. Then I called the university where Lily went to school. It took some doing, but through my lawyer, I managed to reverse the scholarship funding I'd provided. It turned out that because it was set up through a private foundation I'd created, I could revoke it under certain conditions. I made it happen. Her next semester's tuition was back on my parents to pay. I stopped all payments to my mother. no more monthly Venmo transfers. I also called in a few favors and had the warranty on the roof reevaluated and found that there were clauses that hadn't been met, so the extended warranty I'd paid for was void. They'd have to pay out of pocket if anything went wrong. I didn't do anything about the car or the vacation. Those had already happened and there was no taking them back. But everything going forward, done. Then I did exactly what my mom had told me to do. I cut contact, blocked their numbers, blocked them on social media, everything. I focused on my work, started going to therapy to deal with my clearly messed up family dynamics, and tried to move on with my life. For about 3 months, I heard nothing, which was what I expected since they'd told me not to contact them for 6 months anyway. I wondered sometimes if they'd even noticed the money had stopped. Surely they had, right? But no one reached out, so I guess they were fine with the new arrangement. I was hurt, but I was also starting to feel lighter. My therapist helped me see that I'd been setting myself on fire to keep my family warm and that their treatment of me was not okay. I started dating someone, a woman named Rachel who I met through work. I was actually doing pretty well, all things considered. Then, about 3.5 months after the dinner, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It was my dad. "We need to talk," he said. He sounded stressed, which was unusual for him. My dad was usually pretty unflappable. "I don't think we do," I said. "You made it pretty clear I was an embarrassment who needed to not be around the family." "That was your mother's thing," he said, which made me see red. "And you sat there and let it happen. You agreed with her. So no, Dad, it wasn't just her thing." There was a pause. "Can we meet, please? There are some things we need to discuss." Something in his voice made me agree. We met at a coffee shop the next day. My dad looked terrible. He'd lost weight, he had dark circles under his eyes, and he looked older than I'd ever seen him. We sat down and he just stared at his coffee for a long moment. "Your mother told me you were paying for things," he said finally. "Okay," I said, not giving him anything. "She told me last week. I didn't know about most of it." He looked up at me and he actually had tears in his eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Why would I need to tell you? You knew about some of it. The roof, the car, you knew I gave Marcus money." "I knew about those, yes, but your mother said those were small amounts, a few thousand here and there. She said you were chipping in a little bit from your consulting work to help the family. I thought that was nice, but I didn't think much of it. We didn't need the money, I make plenty, but it was a nice gesture." I laughed bitterly. A nice gesture, is that what it was? "How much?" he asked. "How much did you give us? Why does it matter now? Please, I need to know." I pulled out my phone and opened a spreadsheet I'd made for my own records. I'd tracked every payment. I showed him. I watched his face go white as he scrolled through. 80,000 for Lily's tuition, 150,000 for Marcus's business, 25,000 for the roof, 30,000 for the car, 15,000 for the vacation. The monthly payments to Mom, totaling over 50,000 across the months I'd sent them, all the other MISC expenses. $263,000, I said, give or take. That's what I gave you all over about 18 months. He looked like he might throw up. "Where did you get this kind of money?" So I explained the whole thing. The startup, the acquisition, the actual amount I'd made which I'd never told them before. His eyes just kept getting wider. "You're a millionaire?" he asked. I said, "Yeah. And you've been living in that condo and driving that Toyota while giving us hundreds of thousands of dollars." "I don't need much," I said with a shrug. "I'm happy with what I have, and I wanted to help my family, past tense." He put his head in his hands. "Your mother had no idea, about the full extent, I mean. She knew you'd paid for some things, but not how much. Clearly she didn't care either way since she kicked me out and called me an embarrassment." "She's a fool," he said, and the venom in his voice surprised me. "She's a damn fool, and I told her that." "What happened?" I asked. "Why are you here now? Why does it matter now?" He sighed. "Marcus's business is failing. He needs another 100,000 to keep it afloat or he's going to lose everything. He came to us for the money. That's when he mentioned that you'd actually given him the initial capital, not just 10 or 20,000 like your mother had told me, but the full 150, and that you'd called in the loan." "Which was my right," I said. "Absolutely you're right," he agreed. "So Marcus confessed the real amount, and then I started asking your mother more questions. She tried to downplay it, but I kept pushing. That's when Lily's school called saying there was a problem with her tuition and we owed $70,000 immediately or she'd be unenrolled. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. Your mother still tried to act like it wasn't a big deal, said you just helped out a little bit. So I went through our bank records, all those Venmo transfers, thousands and thousands of dollars that your mother had been receiving and spending without ever telling me. She didn't tell you. I was actually surprised by that. Not a word. I thought we were paying for everything ourselves. I give your mother access to our accounts. She manages the household expenses. I didn't watch every transaction. I trusted her. I had no idea you were sending her money every month. He looked at me and there was real anguish in his eyes. Do you know what she spent it on? I shook my head. Herself, spa treatments, shopping trips with her friends, expensive dinners out, a goddamn designer handbag collection. She was getting thousands of dollars a month from you and spending it on luxuries while telling me we needed to budget and cut back on things. I felt a weird mix of vindication and sadness hearing this. When I confronted her about all of it, about how much you'd actually given us, she finally broke down and admitted she'd known. She'd known you were making serious money, more than I make probably, and she was jealous. Jealous? That didn't make sense. You're her oldest child and you lapped her. You lapped our whole family. You made it bigger than any of us by 25. She has a medical doctor husband and she was proud of that. It gave her status in her social circle. And here you are, her son who she thought was just playing around with computers, and you're wealthier than we'll probably ever be. It made her feel inadequate, like she'd failed somehow. So she kicked me out and called me an embarrassment. That's insane. It is insane, he agreed. It's completely insane and it's unforgivable. When she told you that you had no direction and weren't building a career, she knew it was a lie. She knew exactly what you'd accomplished. She was tearing you down because your success made her feel small. I didn't even know what to say to that. I'm divorcing her, my dad said quietly. That shocked me. What? I'm divorcing your mother. I've already filed the papers. What she did to you, lying to me about the money, the jealousy, the cruelty, I can't overlook it. I won't. I've spent 28 years with this woman, and I'm realizing I don't think I ever really knew her. Dad, I don't want to be the reason you get divorced. You're not the reason, she's the reason. Her actions, her choices. I'm just done making excuses for her. He reached across the table and grabbed my hand. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I didn't defend you at that dinner. I'm sorry I've been absent your whole life. I'm sorry I didn't see what was happening. You deserved better from me, from both of us, but especially from me. I'm your father and I failed you. I won't lie, I started crying. Right there in the coffee shop, I just broke down, because those were words I'd needed to hear my entire life. We talked for hours. He asked me about my life, my work, really asked and really listened in a way he never had before. I told him about Rachel, about my therapy, about how I'd been doing. He told me about the divorce proceedings, about how my mother was furious and trying to take him for everything, about how Marcus was panicking about his business and Lily was having to take out loans for school. Do you hate us? He asked at one point. I thought about it. No, I said honestly. I don't hate any of you. I'm angry and I'm hurt, but I don't hate you, except maybe Mom right now. I might hate her a little bit. He nodded. That's fair. What do you want from me? I asked. Why are you really here? I want a relationship with my son, he said. Not your money, not your help, just you. I want to be your dad, actually be your dad if you'll let me. I know I don't deserve it and I know I have to earn it, but I'm asking for the chance. What do you even say to that? Over the next few months, my dad and I slowly rebuilt a relationship. It was awkward at first. We didn't really know each other that well, but we worked at it. He actually cut back his hours at the hospital, something I never thought I'd see, and made time for regular dinners with me, just the two of us. We talked about everything: sports, politics, medicine, business, life. I got to know him as a person and not just as the absent father figure. He kept me updated on the divorce. My mother was apparently telling everyone who would listen that I was a selfish monster who had abandoned the family, conveniently leaving out the part where she'd kicked me out and had been secretly spending the money I'd been sending. My dad set the record straight with extended family and friends, which caused a whole other storm. Marcus reached out eventually. His business did end up failing and he had to declare bankruptcy. He apologized for not standing up for me at the dinner. He said he'd been in shock and hadn't known what to do, which was a weak excuse, but I appreciated the apology. He asked if there was any way I could help him out again, and I told him no. Not because I wanted him to suffer, but because he needed to figure things out on his own, truly on his own. He wasn't happy about it, but he accepted it. Our relationship is still pretty strained. Lily was actually the most upset with me, which surprised me. She called me an asshole for taking away her tuition money. I told her that it was my money to begin with and I could do what I wanted with it. She said I was punishing her for something Mom did. I told her she sat there silently while I was being verbally eviscerated and kicked out. So yeah, there were consequences for that. She didn't like that answer. She ended up having to take out substantial loans and get a part-time job. She still barely speaks to me. My mother tried to reach out a few times, mostly through other people since I kept her blocked. The messages were never apologetic. They were things like, I don't know why you're doing this to the family, and you've always been overly sensitive, and your father has turned you against me. Never once did she take responsibility or apologize. My dad said she was playing the victim hard in the divorce proceedings, but he had receipts for everything, so it wasn't going well for her. The divorce was finalized about 2 months ago. My dad bought a nice townhouse near his hospital, and he seems happier than I've ever seen him. We have dinner at least once a week now, sometimes twice. He's met Rachel and he loves her. He's become the dad I always wished I had, which is bittersweet because it took all of this for it to happen. Last month, my mom showed up at my condo. I don't know how she got past the front desk, but there she was, knocking on my door. I opened it because I heard her voice through the door saying she wasn't leaving until I talked to her. She looked terrible. The divorce had been hard on her, clearly. She'd aged in these months. "Can I come in?" she asked. "No," I said. She flinched. "Please, I need to talk to you." "So talk." She looked around the hallway, uncomfortable. Here. Here or nowhere. She took a breath. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I said at that dinner, for kicking you out, for all of it. I made a mistake." "Okay," I said. She waited like I was going to say more. When I didn't, she continued. "I'm your mother. You can't just cut me out forever." "Watch me." "Don't be childish," she snapped, and there was the real her showing through. "Childish? You kicked me out of the family and called me an embarrassment. You spent hundreds of thousands of dollars that I gave you in good faith to help the family, and you spent it on yourself without even telling Dad. You were jealous of your own son's success, and you've never once, not actually, given me a real apology. You just said you made a mistake, like you forgot to buy milk or something." "What do you want from me?" she asked, getting angry now. "Nothing," I said. "I want absolutely nothing from you. I want you to leave me alone and let me live my life. You told me I was an embarrassment with no direction. Well, I took your advice. I built my own life separate from this family. You don't get to decide now that you want me back in because it's convenient." "I'm your mother," she repeated. "Biologically, sure, but you've never acted like it. Not really, not to me." She started crying. "How can you be so cruel?" "I learned from the best," I said, and closed the door in her face. I listened to her stand there crying for a few minutes before she finally left. I felt bad, but also I didn't. She'd made her choices, and now she was living with the consequences. My dad told me later that she'd been hoping to reconcile with me because she was struggling financially. The divorce settlement gave her the house and a portion of my dad's retirement, but she'd been living beyond her means for years apparently, and now without my monthly payments or my dad's full income, she was having to actually budget. She'd even had to get a job, first time she'd worked in over 25 years. Part of me felt vindicated, part of me just felt sad. This was my mom, and our relationship was completely destroyed, but it wasn't me who destroyed it. So that's where I am now. My dad and I have a better relationship than we've ever had. Marcus and I are civil but distant. Lily still thinks I'm an asshole. My mom is out of my life entirely. Rachel has been incredibly supportive through all of this, and we're actually talking about moving in together. The money that I would have kept giving to my family, I've started donating to scholarship funds for first-generation college students and low-income kids trying to start businesses. It feels better than giving it to people who didn't appreciate it. I still have moments where I question everything. Did I overreact? Should I have been more forgiving? Should I help Lily with her loans or Marcus with his bankruptcy? Am I being petty and vindictive? But then I remember sitting at that dinner table, being called an embarrassment by my own mother, while I'd literally given them hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I think no, I wasn't wrong to set boundaries. I wasn't wrong to demand basic respect and appreciation. My therapist says I'm doing the right thing by maintaining my boundaries and not letting myself be manipulated by guilt. She says that family doesn't get a free pass to treat you terribly just because you share DNA. I'm still processing all of it. Some days I'm fine. I'm happy with my life and my relationship with my dad and my girlfriend and my work. Other days I grieve for the family I thought I had, or maybe the family I wish I'd had. What really gets me sometimes is thinking about all those years growing up, feeling like I was on the outside. I thought it was in my head, that I was being too sensitive like my mom always said. But it wasn't in my head. She really did treat me differently, love me less. And when I became successful, instead of being proud, she resented me for it. I've had a lot of time to think about the kind of parent I want to be someday. If Rachel and I end up having kids, I know exactly what not to do, at least. I'll never make my kids feel like they have to earn my love or approval. I'll never treat one better than the others. I'll never be jealous of their successes. I'll celebrate them and support them and make sure they know they're valued. My dad has apologized so many times for not being that parent to me. I've forgiven him, mostly because I can see he's genuinely trying to do better and be better. He's not just apologizing with words, he's apologizing with actions. He shows up now. He's present. He's interested in my life. He's proud of me and he tells me so. That's all I ever wanted, really, just to be seen and valued by my parents. I got a message last week through an old email account my mom must have remembered. It was long, rambling, and I almost didn't read it, but I did. She wrote about how she'd been going to therapy, how she was working on herself, how she realized she'd been a terrible mother to me. She said she'd been dealing with her own insecurities and mental health issues for years and had never addressed them. She said watching me succeed had triggered something in her, made her feel like a failure, and instead of dealing with those feelings in a healthy way, she'd lashed out at me. She said she didn't expect forgiveness, but she wanted me to know that she was sorry, truly sorry, and that she was trying to understand why she'd done what she did. She said she was proud of me, even if she'd never shown it. She said I deserved better from her. It was the most honest and self-aware I'd ever seen her be in writing. I haven't responded. I don't know if I will. Part of me wants to believe she's really changing, really working on herself. Part of me thinks it's just another manipulation, another attempt to get back into my life and my wallet. My dad says she has been going to therapy. He's heard from mutual friends. He says it's up to me whether I ever want to give her another chance, but that I shouldn't feel obligated to. Rachel says I should do whatever feels right for me, but also protect my peace. She's seen how much lighter and happier I've been without my mom's toxicity in my life. So I don't know, maybe someday I'll be ready to have a conversation with my mother. Maybe I'll never be ready. Maybe she'll do the work and actually change, or maybe she'll always be the same person who valued her pride over her son. What I do know is that I'm not that person anymore who would set himself on fire to keep others warm. I'm not the person who would accept crumbs of affection and be grateful for them. I know my worth now, and I know what I deserve. If my family can't see that and treat me accordingly, then they don't get access to me. Not my time, not my energy, and definitely not my money. It's been a hell of a journey getting here. I've lost most of my family, at least for now. But I've gained a real relationship with my dad. I've gained self-respect. I've gained clarity about who I am and what I will and won't accept. And honestly, I'm okay. I'm actually more than okay. I'm happy. My life is good. I have people in it who value me for me, not for what I can do for them or give them. I never thought I'd say this, but getting kicked out of my family might have been the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to see the dysfunction I'd been making excuses for my whole life. It forced me to value myself and set boundaries. It forced me to build a life based on mutual respect and genuine connection rather than obligation and guilt. I'm not grateful to my mom for what she did, but I'm grateful for what I learned from it. And if she's really doing the work, really changing, maybe one day we can have some kind of relationship. But it won't be the same. It can't be. Too much has happened. Too much has been said and done. For now, I'm focusing on the people who are in my corner. My dad, Rachel, a few close friends who have been supportive through all this. I'm focusing on my work, on my growth, on building the life I want. The money that caused all this drama, it's just money. I'm grateful for it. I'm smart with it, but I've learned it can't buy the things that actually matter. It can't buy genuine love or respect or family bonds. If anything, it just revealed what was already there or what wasn't there. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd never made that money. Would my mom have still resented me for some other reason? Would our relationship have been better or just differently dysfunctional? Would I have ever seen the family dynamics clearly, or would I have kept making excuses forever? I guess I'll never know, and that's okay. I can only deal with the reality I'm in, not the hypotheticals of what might have been. What I can tell you is this: if you're in a situation where family is treating you like you're worth nothing, believe their actions. Don't make excuses for them. Don't light yourself on fire to keep them warm. You deserve better. You deserve people who see your value, who appreciate you, who love you not for what you can give them, but for who you are. It took me 25 years and $250,000 to learn that lesson. I hope anyone reading this can learn it a lot cheaper than I did. My dad called this morning to ask if I wanted to catch a baseball game this weekend. We're planning to make it a regular thing now that the season's starting. That phone call, that simple invitation from someone who's genuinely happy to spend time with me, meant more than any amount of money I gave my family. That's what I wish I'd known earlier. That's what I wish my mom had known. That connection, real connection, can't be bought or faked or manipulated. It has to be genuine. It has to be built on mutual respect and love. I have that with my dad now, finally. I have that with Rachel. I'm building that with myself. And if the rest of my family never comes around, if my mom never really changes, if Marcus and Lily always see me as the bad guy in this story, that's sad, but it's not my burden to carry anymore. I gave them everything I had, literally. If that wasn't enough, nothing ever will be. So I'm moving forward. I'm living my life. I'm happy. And honestly, after everything, that feels like the biggest victory of all.